please. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm going to call our regular council of Tuesday, September 13th to order. Welcome to all of those who are watching on live stream. We have an agenda in front of us. Mr. Coleman, any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions from administration, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Someone want to move the agenda as presented? Councillor Wanchuk, thank you very much. All in favor? That's unanimous. We have minutes of the August 23rd, 2020 meeting. Someone want to move those? Councillor Lewis, thank you very much. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is unanimous. We have an opportunity at the beginning of every meeting for anybody from the public who'd like to address council on a matter that is not on the agenda can do so at this time. Is there anybody who'd like to come forward? Anyone wanting to come forward to address council? Last call. I am seeing none, and so we will move into staff introductions. And Mr. Bain, I believe you have 3. Well, we have 2.
Madam Chair, members of council, I'd like to introduce Brad White. Brad is our new manager of economic development. So Brad started with us on the 30th of August. Most recently, Brad has been with the town of Moorville, but he's been around the region a long time. Obviously, he hasn't been to Strathmore County.
It looked familiar.
You've probably seen him around regional events for sure. So Brad brings regional experience to the county. It's really at the right time for us as we ramp up our economic development program to build a regional capacity in that area. We're very happy to have Brad join us.
Well, welcome, Brad. Come over here. I have things for you. And just on behalf of council, welcome. Look forward to working with you for many, many years. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of council, this is Marion Wolf, and Marion started with us on 23rd of August in our safety codes area as one of our new administrative assistants in safety codes. So she came over from the corporate services group where she was providing some support there. So Marion's been getting up to speed and getting trained up on our processes in our front desk and helping our customers, and she'll be doing permit issuance, permit intake, and generally helping with process and helping to get things done. So we're very happy to have Marion join the team.
Okay, welcome, Mary. Hi. Well, you come on up a little. Okay. We'll take a photo and give you a pin because I brought 3. So there you go.
And Maureen Easton is joining us as well. So Maureen's start date was 6th of September. She's a fresh face for sure. And Maureen's our new economic development officer, focusing mainly in the business retention expansion area. And so she'll be directly supporting the BRE NRC project and helping to get that going, a 2-year project. So she'll be engaged in that work. And she has about 12 years experience as a municipal economic development officer around different parts of Alberta. And again, coming in to help us build our capacity and build our team up in economic development at just the right time. Yes. So we're very happy to have Maureen join us.
Welcome, Maureen. Glad to have you on board and looking forward to working with you. Welcome. Yes. We have a couple of service awards, one from Ms. Weiss and one from Mr. Good.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. I get the pleasure of bringing Margaret Ann Vitamanis to Council today. She has been with us for 5 years now. She started off as a term position in payroll, and then in January of 2020, she moved over to accounts payable, and with us, she's still helping out in payroll a bit there. As I'm sure you can all appreciate, it was 2020, so not only did she get to learn AP, she also learned some cash receipting, some collections, some reception, all sorts of fun things. So she learned a lot of skills that year. I can't say too much about Margaret Ann. She is amazing. She's a team player who, as just indicated during COVID, she took on everything she possibly could. She's always willing to learn, always goes above and beyond. She's very dependable, extremely hardworking, dedicated, and she usually has a smile, but she's a bit shy today. So
Congratulations on 5 years. Come on.
Yep.
Congratulations and another 15 hours.
Good afternoon, Council. It is my pleasure to recognize Erin Gallagher with 10 years with the county. She's first started off in our utilities group. She started off as a water technician, so she worked closely out in the field, dealing with all those wonderful things, water breaks, meter reads, all those wonderful things that no one needs to deal with because you have water and sewer that occurs when it needs to. Most recently with the reorganization within the utilities section, she's taken on the role of supervisor of waste management and utilities. One of her major roles is to take a look, or rather look after our transfer station. So all the transfer station attendants do report to her. But she also has a significant role still within the utilities section. If there's any kind of technical issue related to the computers, the SCADA, anything like that, she's the person to go to. She knows her stuff. She's the one who figures things out. And there's been a number with the airport contracts and these technical issues, and she's done an amazing job with that. Always willing to take on a new challenge. She hits the ground running, hard worker, dedicated. I really can't say enough good things about her. She's a tremendous asset to the utilities group, tremendous asset to the county. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with her. So
Congratulations. So happy to hear you were able to find different challenges in the organization, if I can call them that way. So congratulations and thank you. Okay, and we're on to 5A. And Ms. Weiss, that is you. And this is a request to waive all or portion of a property tax penalty. So whenever you're ready.
Sure. Oh, it's not logged in. I'm gonna test my memory, I guess. Okay, I think this is gonna light up on the screen here in just a moment.
It's there.
There we go. Perfect timing. All right, so yes, Madam Mayor and Council, I am here today. Administration did receive a request in June from HESC Energy Corp. And so their request was in regards to 2 of their tax rolls. They were requesting that we set up a payment plan with the county, waive all or a portion of existing penalties, and cancel any future penalties. So this particular ratepayer, they have 4 different tax rolls. Since they took over in August of 2021, so the HESC was actually acquired by BOCO Energy Inc. So since they were acquired, they have since paid off 2 of the accounts in full and gone on to the tax installment payment plan program. And in addition, they did have a verbal agreement with myself, which they have been adhering to and making consistent payments on that, on both accounts. As of September 6th, the balances of both tax rolls, the 8642001, the total outstanding right now is $45,567. And roll 8840-225 is outstanding of $164,584. So these accounts, as I'm sure if you look at this table, they have a significant amount of penalties outstanding. This is because the majority of this account, they haven't been paid since 2018 and 2019. Given that they're linear in nature, there's some limited options on what we can do to placing tax notifications and things like that on those properties. So that's why you're seeing it come a couple of years later than we normally would. So our recommendation is that administration deny the request to cancel future penalties, waive all, or waive a portion of existing tax penalties of $10,103.57 for tax roll 864-2001 and $45,504.20 for tax roll 8840-225. And that is so that we ensure that we're adhering to our penalties on current and arrears of property tax bylaw 0121.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
Thank you for that. It's nice to see the company working with us and getting through. I'm sure we might see a lot of this with the upturn in oil and gas. I just have a question. Again, the company has come forward, paid off a couple, seem to be in a verbal agreement with you, and hopefully that's going as agreed. It's really tough to cancel, in my opinion, cancel the penalties until somebody comes and talks and makes a deal. I'm just wondering, traditionally, if somebody comes in, of course, they have the taxes and the penalties, or would we, if we were making some sort of a deal with them on paper, would we waive future penalties to get this paid off and keep the other ones? So I'm just looking at historically what you would have done with the ongoing accumulative interest up and beyond what's here. And I'm just, again, looking, have you ever suspended further interest payments on it in the name of the agreement? So just looking for some history.
Perfect. Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, to address kind of the first part, yes, HESC has been committed to our verbal agreement on the phone. They have not missed a payment. The second part is I don't have the authority to waive future penalties. Under the MGA, only council can do that. So.
Has council asked you to look into and made any sort of a motion to allow late penalties to stop at the deal? I'm just looking at today. I support the unpaid taxes being paid. I support the penalties to this point. However, I'd like to see if there is some sort of a formal agreement where future interest, if it's paid out in a year. I mean, we've already collected, just let me have a look, $55,000 in penalties. So for me, I'd rather see the arrears paid and the suspension, because it seems like there's there, but that's just my opinion. And so I'm looking again for you. I realize it's a council decision to waive further, but I'm just wondering, have you ever had a motion from council to waive future interest on a deal to pay up arrears?
Thank you. Through the chair, to my knowledge, no, has not been a motion. What I did this time, however, is add an option under the recommendation section there that Leduc County Council approved to refund penalties of $10,000 for each of the tax rolls after all outstanding payments have been made. So that was an option that council could look at and discuss.
Any other comments? I find this interesting. Page 2 of your report says taxes have been arrears since 2018 and 2019. If I was a resident and I'd lost my job and I hadn't paid taxes for 2018 or 2019, and I came forward and asked for you people to forgive it, I probably would be told no. Number one, I know taxes need to be paid yearly. I think we all know that. So I appreciate the request coming forward. I appreciate that they're working on it. But why didn't they contact us in 2018 or 2019 to say we're having trouble paying taxes, or maybe they did, I don't know, and start looking at it that right now. Once we start providing exemptions, and there's really no rationale. Their building didn't burn down. They haven't lost part of their physical, what we're actually taxing them on is still, the asset is still there. So just because I've had a couple bad years, I'm not sure that's enough. But So that's just my comment. I don't know if there was a question there, Ms. Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the reasons that they wouldn't have contacted us in 18 and 19 is Boco Energy Inc. didn't own it yet. So Boco Energy Inc. actually purchased HESC in August of 2021. And then they contacted me shortly thereafter and started making payments as of November.
So again, if I may, Boco Energy should have looked into the financials of the company they purchased, understood, and I think we had something like that come forward, and it was an individual that had bought something and said, oh, I didn't know the taxes weren't paid on it, or maybe it was offsite levies weren't paid on it, and could you give us a break because I hadn't done my homework? So those are just my thoughts, is that I think we need to move forward and deny the request. I think that there just isn't a really good reason to waive. Thank you. And the floor is still open for other comments or questions. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I appreciate that they're asking.
I don't know what that means. I don't. Oh, maybe I'll shut. Try now.
Oh, there's one that works.
Only some people are talking today.
Thank you. I appreciate this business coming in, and they're working very diligently with you. In the world, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I can appreciate the ask and the consideration that they're putting before council. I would not support this today. It's a big fee to waive and penalty to waive in the future. And I just can't support that.
Thank you for your Any other comments or questions? Councillor, oh, there we go. Good microphone. Scobie.
Okay, I guess looking at, I guess I wouldn't support actually, waiving but I would support putting a freeze on the penalties here on and give them a payment period or a repayment, get them to have a repayment plan on it. And but current taxes coming up this coming year and whatever would have to be paid as normal. But I would support giving them an option to pay that total bill over some time without penalties adding on top of it.
Ms. Weiss, do you have a solution that fits Councillor Scobie's suggestion? What would that look like?
Through the chair, yeah, we could amend the opinion to say that Leduc County Council approved to waive future penalties for each of the two tax rolls after all outstanding balance, or for each of the two tax rolls, period. And then we'll put in that actual tax roll, the specific tax roll numbers.
Councillor Smith?
Again, I'm not completely comfortable with the recommendation you put forward. I agree with Councillor Scobie that the levy and the penalties of $210,151.14 be paid as per a paper agreement with the company. And if they do follow through, then again, with Councillor Scobie, I would support waiving future penalties as long as they're following through on the agreement. And if the agreement falls off, then the penalties would again accumulate on it. So there's a check and balance that if they pay the $210,000 in good faith, which is really great because some oil and gas companies, we may not be seeing anything from them. And again, in the future with a written agreement, if it's paid in good faith, that all interest moving forward would be waived after the balance is paid out. So it could still be there. And there's a check and balance to protect. And again, I do appreciate the mayor talking about precedents and what people are doing. But I guess where I'm coming from with this, oil and gas is really had a tough time. And we know that from Calgary to Nisku to what we're doing. And when companies are stepping up, I'm not sure every company will step up to pay the money back from refusal, but the $210,000 would be nice if we could collect that. And then as Councillor Scobie says, annual taxes hopefully remain current and paid. Thank you.
Just process wise, we have a current recommendation. If Counselor Scobie would like to put a alternate recommendation on or motion on, that's fine. But right now, the recommendation in the reports are the ones we're talking about. So did you want to put an alternate motion on the floor, Counselor Scobie?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so, and we will help you do that.
Okay, just that Leduc County approve waiving future penalties on this and repayment schedule be set up. Plus keeping up with current taxes from here forward.
Does that give enough direction to administration? Ms. Klamosko?
Would council like to put a time limit on the repayment? For what period of time do you expect that to be collected? I think that would be important that we put some time.
Counselor Scobie, what do you see as
Limitation.
reasonable or?
I don't know. They made payments over 3 years or something, possibly.
Okay, by the, Ms. Weiss?
Through the chair, I would say 3 years seems reasonable. Under the MGA, if you're working on a tax agreement, they have a maximum of 3 years to pay.
Yeah. It just seems that we may get our money that way. And who knows what might happen otherwise.
So does the motion look good for you, Counselor Scobie? Approved to waive future penalties for each of the 2 roles that are there at a repayment schedule be set up for a 3-year period.
Yeah. And the condition that, I guess, that they keep up with current taxes from here forward.
Ms. Klamosko?
Just a clarifying question. So would the expectation be that the current year balance must be paid or penalties would apply to current year balances? Is that the intent? Is that we would waive penalties on arrear balances? And penalties would apply on any current balances. I believe then you are allowing for the inherited, I guess, a tax balance that was in arrears that they are making payments towards. So then we could waive penalty on that portion of the tax balance, but the current, they are an operating business and have current taxes to pay, that if they don't pay the current balance, that it's almost, there's 2 separate things going on. One, you pay your current balance or else you get penalized. The second piece is you make consistent payments towards that outstanding arrear balance with no penalties being applied.
And it's Counselor Scobie's motion, so I'll go to you.
That would be the intent. My intent for this would be to separate the arrears from the current taxes. And if they aren't making current tax payments, there would be arrears added to that, but just freeze the arrear or the penalties on the 200 and some thousand that are owing against them.
Okay, Counselor Smith and then Counselor Lewis.
To Counselor Scobie, would you look at a friendly amendment that, and it would read that Leduc County Council approved to waive future penalties on current arrears for each of the 2 tax rolls, the 2 numbers you have there, and an ongoing successful payment be set up? Just, I guess just adding the one word, I'll leave it at that, and that's with the current, to waive future penalties on current arrears. I'm just wondering, would you accept that as a friendly amendment? And just, we're talking about current is what we're talking today, and it doesn't talk about, and again, I'll just look to admin to make sure that meets
Current, not
current arrears.
Well, on the arrears,
Yeah.
I'm not, well,
You shouldn't get any more arrears. Council, Ms. Klamosko?
We may want to just indicate that no further penalty on the $210,151.14 and put the balance in, because that is the current balance that we're discussing, that there would be no penalty applied to that balance.
Yep.
Just adding the word current can cause some confusion because we always talk about the 2022 tax year's current and everything before that is arrears. So just to be clear.
Just 2 seconds, Counselor Lewis. We're just gonna make this change and that's fine with you then, Counselor Scobie. It is your
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Lewis.
I'm good. I was looking for clarification.
Okay, so we have a new motion on the floor, or we have a motion on the floor. Yes?
May I ask if you wanted to specify that it was a written agreement? I know that was one thing that Councillor Smith had mentioned, that they get into a written agreement. Currently, we're going on verbal agreements.
Oh, I would expect it would be a written agreement that they would do this repayment in a 3-year period, yeah.
So what happens if this company then sells? This agreement's null and void and we're even farther behind in taxation on the same asset? Ms. Glasgow.
And just another consideration that council may want to consider here is, what if a payment is missed? Is the agreement null and void and that penalties are reestablished? And do we go back and actually put the penalty on that they might have missed? So we have a November 1st penalty upcoming. So let's say on December payment, they don't make the payment. Do we then say, then you have not honored this agreement, so we will go back and reapply a November 1st penalty? So just a consideration on what occurs on a default of them not adhering to that agreement.
If I may, and I know we're looking at Councillor Scobie's motion, that's perhaps administrative, but maybe something in the motion that actually says that, you know, no, I think Councillor Smith had mentioned it, no further defaults could occur, but that would be written in administrative legalese in the agreement. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and we'll open up for debate on the motion. So I appreciate the intent of this. I hear what Councillor Smith has said, but I also know that there are many companies that change hands very quickly. And again, we've set this up for one company to cover the back taxes from another company. And if it was to change hands in 3 days, we're still out of pocket. And I think the company that owns this needs to be responsible for the taxes that are owing when they bought it, and continue to be buying it. So I think it's a really good natured motion, but I will not be supporting it. Thank you. Any further comments or questions on the motion? I am seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? That's 2 opposed or 3 opposed. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
2.
2? Okay. So it is passed. Thank you. Thank you. I will check. We're not sure what's wrong with our AV today. Just a quick pause here to see if we can figure out what's wrong with our sound for some of our councillors. Well, now it's just green without. This is one. We'll share. No. Green. Councillor Smith, can you check next and the one on the other side? Can you squeeze over there, Councillor Lewis? We're no longer. Okay, thank you. Just a minute, if you don't mind, Mr. Honesty, while we just. I like to have lots of room here. That's okay. We don't judge here. It's just about a choice. All right, Mr. Honesty, you have a number of reports before us today related to community services, and we're starting with the recreation cost share agreement with the city of Leduc.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As council recalls, earlier this summer, we deferred approval of the recreation cost share agreement with the city of Leduc due to some amendments that were suggested. Over the summer, we worked with the city of Leduc regarding those amendments, and they have confirmed that they have no concern with that, specifically to add a termination amendment, which allows for either party to cancel the agreement. So those adjustments have been made. The rest are adjustments that were reviewed with the committee of councils which represented by 2 Leduc and 2 Leduc City Council representatives. Our cost share does adjust for 2022 to $400,000. And we have identified some options to fund that this year. And going forward, we would adjust our budgets accordingly to make sure we represent that $400,000. So our recommendation is before you for approval.
Thank you. Any questions on the report before us or on the motion? I'm seeing none. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Honesty, to you and your staff. I know that council was very specific about wanting that cancellation agreement. You were able to go back and work administratively and not have to pull our committee together, and we appreciate that work on behalf of council to get that done. We also, and a thank you to the City of Leduc for being so accommodating and allowing for us to put that in. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Smith?
I would be prepared to move that recommendation that's before us on this report. And again, I have to echo your words and thank Mr. Honesty for going through it. At the time, it seemed like it could have been a conflict between us, but you did go back and solve it. And again, I have some assurances. I had concerns before that it was an ongoing agreement, which we have had trouble with. So I'm very satisfied with the changes that you negotiated into it. And again, moving the recommendation today before us. Thank you. Do you need that read in?
Should we read them in, Mr. Coleman?
That would be appropriate, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Okay, that Leduc County Council support an amended 2022 capital project summary from the City of Leduc, which removes the following 3 projects: the grain elevator, Leduc lines.
Just,
Am I in the wrong one?
yes.
Okay.
5B1.
Oh, I was, oops, I was sorry. I had gone ahead for that. I apologize, Mr. Honesty.
Thank you. We now have Councillor Lewis sitting beside you, which should assist.
I do
your
appreciate
reading
the
ahead.
coach. As I get older, I find that a carried might be appropriate. So thank you for that, Councillor Lewis. All right, so now we are on the right motion that Leduc County Council approve the revised recreation cost share agreement with the City of Leduc and its associated 2022 contributions of $400,000, which will be funded by $340,000 from the approved 2022 operating budget and the remaining $60,000 by the operating special purpose future year initiative reserve or the 2022 internal savings.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? And again, from the committee perspective, we had a really great working relationship with the City of Leduc. And again, thanks again to them from the administrative perspective for making those changes that were important to council. I'm seeing no further hands up, so I will call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. 5B2.
Thank you. A few items that we were deferring and holding, which are related to the recreation cost share agreement or previous agreement anyway. The committee also worked to review 2020 and 2021 recreation cost share capital contributions, and both are submitted for your approval. They were reviewed in detail with the committee as well as through administration, and we recommend support of the projects that were submitted. Just as a reminder to council, the way the cost share is written is that we make our contribution after projects are complete and we have financials provided by the city. So that's why you're seeing 2020 was deferred for a significant amount of time, but 2021 traditionally would have come to council, March, April of this year. So that will allow us to finalize both of those contributions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Lewis?
No question, but a thank you to Mr. Honesty and his team for getting this completed, and I'd be happy to move the recommendation.
And if you could read it in the record. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Both recommendations.
Recommendation number 1, that Leduc County Council support the 2020 capital program as submitted by the City of Leduc and approved a funding contribution of $96,472. And number 2, that Leduc County Council support 2021 capital program as submitted by the City of Leduc and approve a funding contribution of $78,795.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? I am not seeing any hands. All in favor? That is unanimous. 5B3.
Thank you. The 2022 projects are traditionally presented to us early in the year once the budget is submitted by the city of Leduc. But of course was delayed again, just pending this agreement approval. The committee did review the 2022 capital projects and are recommending support with the removal of 3 projects, one being the grain elevator, the second being Leduc Lions Park improvements, and the third being improvements at the Leduc Golf Club. We felt that those projects don't fall in line with the intent of the cost sharing agreement. All other projects are recommended for support. And so this wouldn't be a financial commitment at this time. We're committing to these projects, and then Leduc would submit their financials once these projects are complete, which we would review early next year.
Okay, thank you very much for the report. And page 32 of our report shows what those are listed there. So that would be what we would be sharing. And again, not the grain elevator, Lions Park or Leduc Golf Course. Any comments or questions? I am seeing none. And again, work on the committee, City of Leduc understood our request to have those removed. There were no issues with negotiation in that part. And so it was very smooth to negotiate those out. If there's no questions, looking for someone for the motion. Councillor Balazer. Do you want me to read it in for you?
No,
You got your eyes there?
well,
You and Mr. Honesty?
okay, that Leduc County Council support an amendment 2022 capital project summary from the city of Leduc, which removed the following 3 projects: the grain elevator, Leduc Lions Park, and Leduc Golf Club.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I am seeing none. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. 5B4.
Thank you. This is also some work related administratively to work with the town of Kalmar. Earlier this year, they submitted their 2022 budget, which was significantly different than what we were anticipating. At that time, they had a change in CEO and
great.
financial representatives. So it took them some time to have those conversations. We've determined with the town of Kalmar that they're not able to adjust their budgets, but there are some inaccuracies represented in that budget. The overall budget does match what we're anticipating. If you see on the budget summary, some of it's how they allocated their costs of their budget, specifically in the arena and programs, significantly different. We've committed to the town, or I've committed to the town, to bring this forward to council to recommend a budget contribution. This allows them to proceed with operations in 2022 without significant financial impact, and that throughout the audit or prior to the audit, we'll work with the town to have our concerns addressed and corrected. So my recommendation is to let Leduc County Council authorize a 2022 recreation cost share budget contribution of $165,000 to the town of Kalmar. And as discussed, that would allow us to support them financially and address our concerns prior to final payment.
Thank you. And what percentage again of the payment would be released now, and what percentage is after the budget, the audit financial?
I didn't identify it specifically as a percentage. It's a lump sum.
Okay.
It's approximately 50%. It's a number that both the CEO and I have determined was a fair budgetary contribution.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Did you get a more detailed summary than what this list is showing
Yes.
to make your decision?
Yeah, no, I do. And a lot of it is related to how their allocation of some staffing. So one, there's some inaccurately allocated staff, and there's some that we have concerns with that maybe shouldn't be there. So we've identified to the town all of those concerns. They're going to work for sure to amend it in 2023, but they'll have to amend it prior to an audit for sure as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on the report? I'm seeing none. I will move that recommendation that Leduc County Council authorize a 2022 recreation cost share budget contribution of $165,000 to the town of Kalmar. Any comments further?
So that is approximately half of what we're expecting.
Correct.
Okay. Seeing no further comments, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. 5B5 Warburg Arena redevelopment phase 2.
We've been working, obviously for the last several years with the Warburg Arena around redevelopment of with the village of Warburg around the redevelopment of their arena. In 2021, council approved a motion to support the village with some grant applications to attempt to reduce the tax implications for both the village and the county. The village did submit a grant request this spring to the government of Alberta for up to $1 million through the Community Facility Enhancement Program. They have now been notified by the province that they're moving on to the next phase of consideration, and the province requires more details and confirmation of funding, which includes both a contribution commitment from the village and from the county. The village last night committed their approval to the project, and we are recommending conditional approval for this project as well. The conditional approval allows us to hopefully secure the funding and then move on to more detailed review and approvals by both the village and the county. At this point, this allows us to share this information with the province of Alberta and show that we have a conditional support pending grant approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
I would definitely be supportive of moving forward. It's something we committed to. I think Warburg Arena is extremely important. We've done it. I'm just looking though at the funding contributions. Leduc County 1.1 million, Government Alberta 1 million, 400 Gs from Warburg. Is this the time to approach Warburg again? I know when we had the Kalmar Fire Hall, we had a bulk of the money going in and all we were asked for was a check. I'm just wondering, has the time come to maybe look at the Warburg Arena and the money we're putting in as the managing municipality, and the village of Warburg could probably do what Kalmar does with the fire department? Is that, and again, this is just a question that can be brought out in public. Would the village of Warburg be interesting in giving the major contributor control of the arena? And again, you've done a great job with what you've done in New Sarepta. I know we looked at your rec master plan and we talked in the future, there could be changes from just paying from it. And again, I'm using the guideline of the Kalmar Fire Hall, where basically Kalmar was going to do it. We entered into good faith negotiations and found that Leduc County managing that might save us all money in the end. And again, I won't move the recommendation today, but I will support it.
Mr. Honesty?
Yeah, just a few clarifications there. We are reviewing our recreation cost share agreement with the village currently, which will have some of those potential considerations in there. When it regards to the capital project, part of our funding contribution, if we support the project officially, will be our ability to make decisions and be a part of that. So that secures our commitment to the capital. And then the operating adjustments would be reviewed through the cost share agreement that we're currently having discussions with the village.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Should everything go well and the stars align, when would be projected start date, or is that too far ahead?
No, ideally sometime this fall we'll receive some confirmation, which would allow us to work with both the village and this council. And then if the stars align, as you said, it would be after the hockey season.
Great.
We'd have to discuss, because potentially this is a significant project. So there may be some factors that go into that timeline, but ideally it would be in 2023.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lewis and then Councillor Balazer.
Thank you. Just clarification, this program only would proceed should we get grant funding for it. Is that correct?
We would come back to council for formal approval once we determine that there is grant funding.
Thank you.
Councillor Belazer.
Yeah, I was going to say, adding to that, Dean, it's probably I would say a year and a half ago, former mayor of Warburg asked me if we would be supporting maybe the province's part to get this project moving. And I was very politely said, no, we won't be doing that until we would get grant support. So, when Warburg did apply for this grant, the night they applied for it, that next same night, Mayor called me and told me that they were applying for this grant, wondering where our support was on this. I says, well, as far as I knew, and I says, I can't speak for this council, but I says, our support is still there until now. When it actually comes forward, I can probably say one way or the other, but they were really happy that we could possibly still be on side with this project. So just thought I should bring that forward.
Thank you. Any further questions? And then looking for someone to put the motion on the floor. Councillor Belazer, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation that Leduc County Council provide conditional funding support of $1,110,000 to the village of Warburg to support the arena phase 2 funding application.
Okay. Any further comments or questions on the motion? Debate? I am seeing none. All in favor? It is unanimous. And thank you, Mr. Honesty, to you and your staff for all your work around community services and making sure that our residents have a place to go when they want to play pickleball or go skating or whatever it is. We appreciate it. On to 5C1, Municipal Development Interim Review Project Charter. Ms. Johnson, are you alone on this one? Quick shoulder check and whenever you're ready. Absolutely. Take your time.
So thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As you are aware, the interim review of the MDP was triggered by the need to comply with the approval of the Regional Agricultural Master Plan, RAMP as it's often referred to. RAMP requires member municipalities to update their MDP within 2 years of RAMP approval by the province or as part of any updates required by the 5-year interim review of the growth plan, whichever occurs first. RAMP has yet to be approved by the province. However, in preparation of RAMP approval, we need to get planning underway. On January 25th of this year, a council workshop was held to determine whether council wanted to revisit specific policy areas of the MDP and to determine the scope of the MDP interim review envisioned by council. Also in January of this year, key staff members were approached and asked to identify any areas of concern encountered through the implementation of the MDP. The consultation with council and staff did not reveal the need to undertake significant revisions to the MDP. In addition to consultation with council and staff, administration drafted a background report. That background report is attached to your and forms part of your package. The background report provides an overview of the work completed or substantially completed since the MDP was adopted in 2019 and where that work diverges or is inconsistent with the MDP. The feedback received from council and key staff, together with the draft background report, informed the municipal development plan interim review. The objectives of the MDP interim review are as follows: to align the MDP with provincial legislative and regulations that have changed since the adoption of the MDP. So this would be, for example, the AVPA regulation. The contours changed. We need to reflect that in our MDP. Also to align the MDP with plans and studies approved by the EMRB since the adoption of the MDP. This, of course, includes RAMP. It also includes SISB, broadband, IRTMP, and that's just a few of those plans that there's others that are identified in the report. It's also to identify and address any inconsistencies between the MDP and the plans adopted by the county or studies and strategies approved by the county since the adoption of the MDP. We have numerous plans and studies that we've completed since 2019, Nisku MEC, IRIS, and the Rural West Economic Diversification Plan, to name a few. Lastly, it's to amend the MDP policies identified through the implementation of the MDP in need of refinement to provide clarity. One example would be to provide clarity on the number of parcels that may be subdivided in the country residential area of the MDP. The project charter identifies 3 phases and the deliverables for each of those 3 phases. Phase 1, project startup, includes approval of the project charter by council. So if council's willing, approval today. Finalization of the background report by the end of this year. A number of studies and strategies are underway, and we can take those and ensure that they form part of the background report. As well, it'll be the finalization of the communications and public participation plan by the end of this year to outline the tools, tactics, process, stakeholders, and timing of communication and public participation campaigns. Phase 2, build solutions, includes a draft MDP with amendments that align with legislative changes and regional and municipal work completed since the adoption of the MDP. Public consultation that garners feedback from internal and external stakeholders, including councils, the senior management team, and other key staff members, external agencies, adjacent municipalities, and the general public on the proposed amendments to the MDP. What we heard report that compiles feedback received and how input was addressed. So of note, extensive consultation like what we undertook when we adopted the MDP is not envisioned. And the reason it's not envisioned is because the scope of this review is intended to be limited. Phase 2 deliverables will be complete in Q2 of 2023. And the last phase is project completion, which of course includes council consideration of first reading, the public hearing, council's consideration of second reading, a submission to EMRB, so the REF application, and then of course, council's consideration of third reading once we've received approval at EMRB. As mentioned, this project is to be complete by the end of 2023. Flexibility in the schedule will be required should RAMP not be approved in the near future, or if significant amendments arise from the 5-year interim review of the growth plan. Neither of these are anticipated, but we will need to monitor closely the 5-year interim review and incorporate changes, so we aren't needing further amendments after the MDP interim review is complete. So the project charter is attached and included in your council package. Administration is recommending council approve the MDP interim review project charter. If council approves the project charter, staff will get things underway. We'll finalize the background report and the communication and public engagement plan by the end of this year. And then, of course, we'll bring back proposed solutions to council in Q2 of 2023. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you very much. I have a question. In your out of scope, you have population and employment projections and land use analysis. that's out of scope because we're getting it done somewhere else. Would it not be folded into this, or is it too big and complicated for a review?
No, it's just not part of
This.
this. It is separate. It is in the background report. We'll be making sure that that does inform any amendments to the MDP.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. I'm glad to see you have public consultation as part of this. Will you be doing that county-wide, or will you have it in 2 locations, or are you looking for more?
As mentioned, we haven't completed the communications plan as of yet, but we would anticipate likely being 3 locations as we've done in the past.
Okay, sort of east, central, west?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith?
Not questions, comments on it again. Thank you for all of this. I do support the funding. However, I don't support your scheduling, and I look at your risks. I was writing them down, and it's funny, I came to yours, which I did read, and they're the exact same as mine. I'm just wondering why we're sticking our neck out when we don't have to and when staff is super busy. We can fund this, but risks, ramp not approved by province, so the approval is delayed. Well, there's a provincial election in 6 months. So maybe we have somebody back in there. So we're moving ahead, assuming that ramp will be done. I'd rather have the funding, and when ramp was done, fold it in. Another concern I always have is what we ask you to do in planning and development. Your staff resources and availability is always limited, and we push you guys to the wall on everything. And I think development's coming back. So I think you're pretty busy up there. I just have concerns right now with staff resources and availability. The scope creep, I really don't care about. I just want to mention again, these are your risks. Proposed amendments may not align with community, industry, and council views. And so before you go out, I know you have it in your schedule, but a lot of the work's going to take place before we get to these people, which could change it. So again, today I won't be supporting the schedule. I support funding it, but I'd like to see us delay it until all of the variables are ready to be folded in, because there's huge risk. If ramp doesn't go in, and I'm just going to throw the provincial election out, that's the spring of 2023. If that goes, I would assume the new government will come in, cabinet ministers, new things. Somebody's going to want to reduce some red tape or something really innovative. So again, money today, the 15,000, heck yeah. The timeline, not until these variables have been like ramp. And again, you're looking at Q3 2023 for first reading. That's pretty short timeline. And again, don't do this to yourself. You guys don't need to pile on the work. I'd rather have what you're doing right now done timely, and well, not that you're not, but at what point do we put you out? So again, I'll let council have the debate on it, but I don't support moving forward with it till your risk descriptions of those are in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I do see on number 5, because it's 2 things I heard. One of them was ramp, and the other was the EMRB growth plan update as well. So number 5 talks about monitor the schedule, review the growth plan if necessary, and or possible adjust the review timeline to incorporate anticipated amendments to the growth plan that are significant. So for me, there is whether it's ramp or, because it is both of them, is that correct, Ms. Johnson?
That is correct.
Right. So there is a contingency in the planning here, as same with ramp, monitor approval if delayed, adjust project schedule if necessary. So I think they've taken into account that we might not be able to move as quickly as we can. And so what I would hope is that once either ramp, it should be approved prior to the growth plan update being done, that those dates be brought back, just to do another touchstone here with council, so that we know, yep, ramp's done. So we're able to start on this piece of it, so we can feed in to the larger growth plan. So I hear your concerns, Councillor Smith, but when I read the mitigation, it sounds like they have it there, but they do want to keep it on their books and not just say, oh, well, now ramp's done, let's start a project charter and get it started. This way they can step in and just bring back a revised timeline. Thank you. Councillor Lewis?
I might have missed it. Do you know when ramp might be approved? When that's scheduled?
6 months ago.
Yeah. At the last ramp meeting that we had with the EMRB, they had indicated they anticipate it will be imminent. Apparently there was a couple other more pressing matters that the province had to address prior to ramp. And so I understand that that is now sitting on the minister's desk.
So Ms. Johnson, if ramp isn't approved till Q3 2023, we would just adjust our schedule, but our project charter would be cleared? Is that kind of it?
That's correct. We did adjust the schedule without question.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith.
And I'm not sure where the rush is on this. However, today, I think I put a recommendation up right now for us to debate that we approve are you looking for approval for $15,000 today through the chair?
They are looking for an approval of the project charter.
Okay, so today I would be prepared to move approval of the project charter, and the project begins upon one of two things: ramp approval or the EMRGP 5-year interim review. So that's what I have on the floor. We can debate that. Again, I'm worried about the risk. I'm worried about overrunning our staff when we don't need to do it. And everything we've done at the county has always been timely and sequenced. It's never been that huge leap of faith. And for me, this is a huge leap of faith. The province is going to get ramp done at a time when an election is coming, and there's a leadership review going on to the middle of next month. Another one is the MRB 5-year interim review. Well, that could take 5 years to get the interim review reviewed. So for then, I definitely support what you're working. But I think one of the two key things, again, which is in my motion, the number 5 or number 1 be approved. And from there, I'm not sure why there would be any risk to the county waiting until a couple of these definites are in place. If anything, the risk to the county is moving ahead before 2 major studies. And the reason why we're doing this are improved. So the motion's there for debate. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, is there anything we could start before that? Before the approval of ramp and or the growth plan update?
Yes, we could finish compiling the background report because there's a number of other.
Right, you talked about
Yeah.
other reports and things that, like
Yeah.
Iris was done, and so there's other
Yeah.
small pieces that you could be working on. Okay.
Yeah, and that was the intent here, is to get those pieces in place so that we could evaluate everything upon approval of ramp.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith.
Looking at things that we can do, and you're doing your backgrounder, but would the backgrounder not be affected if the outcome on the 2 main things? I mean, if ramp isn't done, what's the backgrounder worth? Because the backgrounder, I'm sure, will include ramp stuff. And then if you're looking at the growth study or whatever EMRB is doing at this time, if you build something into your backgrounder and something comes up, huge changes, then that's a waste of time. So I just don't get why. Are we looking for work or something, or why are we changing where we commonly sequence, I guess, projects here as clarity becomes available? Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, you wanted to reply?
Yes, please. Just to provide some clarification, ramp is complete. It is already been approved by the board. So the policies are known, and in the background report, I've already started doing some analysis of that approval and what implications it would have for our MDP. So the only thing that is being is that we're waiting for at this particular time is approval by the province to actually take in and incorporate that into the growth plan.
Thank you. Any further, I just comment before I give you the floor, Councillor Smith, you just had the floor. Page 2 of your report, last paragraph before attachments, says the MDP interim review is expected to be complete in the 4th quarter of 2023. The schedule is subject to change should ramp not be approved by the province in the near future, or should significant amendments arise from the 5-year interim of the growth plan. So again, for me, I see that this is a best case scenario timeline that acknowledges in the report, in writing, that there are 2 pieces that are out of our control that could impact the date, the schedule as provided. And for me, that's fine. It allows our administration an opportunity to have a block of time where they know it's going to be happening. The work on the charter is done, which means they don't have to bring the charter back. And they can begin to work on things like the list of new reports and studies that we've done in the county since we've done them, like IRIS and our West End employment piece. All of those could be started. So I do hear you, Councillor Smith. I do hear you about the risk of those not being done, but I think our administration has already contemplated that in their report. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Again, you indicated the ramp has already been approved, but on your page 46 of 106, flexibility and schedule required should ramp not be approved. So ramp isn't approved. And you said that it is. So I think it's important as the public is watching today, the ramp is not approved and ramp will be impacted with what's going on in the province. So again, part of the discussion is I have concerns for you guys, just the work that you're doing, because I pile a lot of stuff on. I have budget coming up. I'm probably going to continue to pile more stuff on you. And I always worry about how council can staff what we ask for. So I think it just puts us in an area, and I'm just going to use an example. Public Works, we had Des in, and he talked about the next phases of the Spine Road, which we want to do. So basically what we could have done, which would be a comparison, is we could have approved the Spine Road before all the listed items that Des had yesterday were there. So we could go, no, we're actually approving $20 million and we're going to get some money from the feds and we're going to get the land and we're going to do this. But we don't do that. And so in comparison, is this not the same? We didn't approve the second phase of the Spine Road yesterday. We saw what the challenges were and we knew it would drag out. So today we have an item before us that doesn't have all the ducks in a row. And we're saying, you know what, let's start going through and doing this. I just don't, if somebody can tell me the harm in delaying this until all of the variables have been settled, you can change my mind today. So I'm looking for why do we have to do it? Justify why it has to go ahead and why it's wrong to wait until the variables, the two huge variables are in there. Convince me and you've got my support. If not, I can't support it. And of course, there is a motion on the floor.
Mr. Bain, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, what I would suggest here is that the way we risk manage the schedules on these projects is if there's slippage on schedule for reasons that we can't control, or for any reasons for that matter, you should expect that this would come back to council, right? So the next item you have on your agenda is exactly that, the land use bylaw project. We've had slippage on the schedule for reasons that we couldn't control. We're bringing that back to council with an adjusted schedule. So essentially what we set is a schedule that is realistic, that we can work to. Things unforeseen happen, we bring that back to council. Council has an understanding of where we're at any given time, and we adjust accordingly. These are often iterative processes, and things have to line up with other products that we can't necessarily control. I think we do have pretty good certainty on RAMP in terms of its content, as Lori has identified. The timing on it coming into effect is certainly an outstanding question. So what we could do with this, if council, the reason we're bringing forward the charter at this time is to have an understanding of whether or not council supports the work. That's what we need to do. So if council supports in principle the scope of work that we identified, council could approve the project charter, and in your motion, you could make the approval conditional upon RAMP coming into effect, say by the end of 2022. And if it doesn't, we'd be back to you with an adjusted project charter in the new year that has a different schedule.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, that was your question you posed to
It is, and again,
administration, and there was a response.
if I could, through the chair, again, I appreciate your answers on that, and I see that you are confident you can go forward. I also like the fact that you would put a timeline on RAMP probably being approved by the end of the year, and then at that point we would come back. So that was my concerns, is just moving ahead in a fairly major project with public input before these two variables are going. So I would definitely be able to support I do support the charter, but I'd like to see, again, it begin on the approval of RAMP or the EMRGP or whatever. Thank you.
Just a question to administration. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does the motion as it reads now limit you from starting any of the other work on the charter, or just on those two pieces? Mr. Bain?
I think we're fine, Madam Chair. I think that the approval of the charter and the substance of the charter is enough to give us comfort to go away and do the work and to understand that we're acting in accordance with council's prerogative.
And part of our job as council is to ensure the direction we provide to administration is clear. And so that's why I wanted to double check that you are clear. You can start on the other pieces. Ramp and the other piece might not be ready when we think it is, but we still have other work and we agree in principle to the charter. Okay. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Smith, if you could read your motion into the record.
That Leduc County Council approve the municipal development plan interim review project charter and that the project begin on regional ag master plan ramp approval or the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan, EMRGP review.
Okay. I am seeing no further hands and we're good with that, Mr. Bain?
Madam Chair, the only question I would have for clarification is what we mean by EMRGP review. So the review is underway. If the reference is adoption of the new growth plan, I would say that is an issue because the timing of that is way out.
Mr. Smith, Councillor Smith, sorry. Of course, I wanted microphone, please.
At the end is the word review ends and I did want approval. Again, through the chair, does that address the concerns?
That I hear Mr. Bain say that could be 4 or 5 years out for the
Don't know
approval.
the exact
3, 4?
timing for that, but I would say it's far enough out so that we're definitely impacting our scheduling on this.
Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair. So it's actually called the 5-year interim review of the growth plan. So approval of that, it could be approval of the 5-year interim review of the growth plan by the board. If that would be a shorter period of time.
Okay.
So that would be similar to ramp,
Approving.
where it's been approved by the board, but has not yet been approved by the province. What takes a significant amount of time is submission of what's been approved by the board to be approved by the province.
Okay, so we need the right words there, 5-year interim.
There's a couple words. The one
Just 2 seconds here, we're just trying to get the
5-year interim review of the growth plan. Yeah, Edmonton, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Smith?
Okay, so for clarity, where it says in term, the ramp approval by the province or the 5-year interim review of the Edmonton Metro Regional Growth by the board. So just need to add by the province because that's what the discussion was and I am fine with what's before us now for a vote.
Okay, and that allows our administration to work on some of the other pieces that are background, not related to either ramp or the growth plan. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any further comments or questions? I am seeing none. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
5C2 Land Use Bylaw 7-08 Review Project Update. And this is Mr. Richards and Ms. Haberland. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're just here today to request a motion be passed to update the project charter for the continuation of the land use bylaw review project. Following a strategic hiatus of the project this year that was required to continue delivering the high level of customer service that we give during a staffing shortage, we are now continuing work on the land use bylaw with a revised project team and completion date. An updated project charter has been created that reflects the current project team and delivery date, which is now expected to be completed and adopted during Q2 of 2024, instead of the originally planned adoption date of Q1 2023. Before we proceed with the next public-facing stages of the process, a detailed progress update and consultation plan will be brought to workshop for discussion. And in the meantime, our recommendation today is for a motion to accept the updated project charter and timeline as outlined in pages 87 to 89 of today's agenda package. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to start with a comment. One of the issues I had when we were working through this during COVID and post-COVID was that we weren't really looking to do a lot of public consultation. I now see on page 84 of our package in scope, it does talk about public engagement activities. I think that this is a really critical bylaw for every single person who lives in our county. And the more that we can reach out and create strong communication, that's what we need to do. It was never sufficient to just have 47 people who have decided to respond virtually to do that. This is great. I really appreciate that. I also really like the full review of the draft land use bylaw and dummy test on real applications, because I think we did this when we were working on it the first time. And as we worked through it, it was around subdivisions. We realized that that's not the intent we had when we said we want to do it this way, because when you applied it to real life, it didn't make sense. So that's really good thinking and learning about how to make sure it makes sense for people. So I'm very much in support of the extension, and I see that we are using our own budget within it. So I'm just going to throw the motion on the floor that council adopt the land use bylaw update project charter as amended, and open the floor for comments, questions, and debate. Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I will support your motion. Just a question about your project charter and some of the committee members. Some of them are no longer with us. Has that been updated as well with new people to be on there?
Through the chair, the project charter, the updated one, that's pages 87 to 89, should reflect the current staff. I can just take a look and make sure.
Oh, we're good.
Because there is two versions in your report, the existing and the proposed.
Okay, we're good. Any further comments or questions? And just a specific request, I think, from council is please work through Ms. Anderson to make sure that all the public dates are put in council calendars, because sometimes I can go to the one in the East End, but not the West End. But it's really important, I think, that we sit in and listen across the county about what's going on. So if you could work with her to make sure that we have access to those, I'd be really appreciative.
Absolutely.
Further comments or questions? I am seeing none. Going to call the question. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. On to new business. And I think we have two proclamations. Is this you, Ms. Gavin? Is this come through a legislative, correct?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request actually came through from Councillor Smith.
Okay.
For the recognition of National Truth and Reconciliation. So the proclamation is before you for your consideration.
And Mr. Coleman, appropriate for it to be read into record? What's the process? We don't do a lot of these.
Yes, Madam Chair, it would be appropriate to have it read into the record.
Okay, so proclamation, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Whereas the Government of Canada has committed to reconciliation and ensuring that the tragic history and ongoing legacy of residential schools is never forgotten, and whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada calls for a national day to honor survivors of residential schools, to remember the thousands of children who did not survive, and to ensure the public commemoration of this of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government of Canada has recognized September 30th as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in accordance with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada calls to action, and whereas September 30 has been reclaimed by survivors as a day to listen to the stories of those affected by the residential school system, to celebrate the inherent value of Indigenous peoples and their cultures, and to reflect on the ways in which our society must improve in order to better uplift and respect Indigenous peoples living in Canada. And whereas Leduc County supports proclaiming September 30th as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and supports both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people's ability to engage and understand the value of Indigenous history, culture, and tradition. And now, therefore, on behalf of Council, I, Mayor Tanny de Blanco of Leduc County, do hereby proclaim the day of September 30th, 2022 as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Leduc County, dated September 13, 2022.
And a vote on that would be appropriate, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous. We have a second proclamation request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This recommendation came in through the website, formal request. It's the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment who requested it. They're requesting November 26, 2022 as the Economic Abuse Awareness Day. And it's for Council's consideration as well.
Okay, thank you. And in our package is a little bit about the organization and as well as the proclamation should we choose to do that. Councillor Smith.
I've gone over and read it. And again, November is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and National Financial Literacy Month. I believe our Department of FCSS definitely does a lot of things during that month, and they do a lot of programming to help families out that do struggle in domestic violence or again, I guess just financial literacy and ability to pay our bills. So I won't be in support of the request for this one. I am support in our FCSS continuing to support our community through their events in November with the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and the National Financial Literacy Month, which I believe recognizes not only the claimed economic violence, but also a variety of issues that are challenging to our constituents and to our society. So again, I won't be supporting just targeting this one, but I do support the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and the National Financial Literacy Month in November of this year.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. I had to do a lot of research to try to understand what domestic economic abuse was. I struggle to still understand what exactly this means. Further to Councillor Smith, there's many programs and days for violence and abuse, and I struggle with this one, so I cannot support it.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your microphone is on. Is that just by, okay. Any other comments or questions? All right. Looking for a motion. There are two options provided by our administration. Councillor Smith.
The option, I will move today on a recommendation that Leduc County Council receives information, the request by the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment for proclamation of November 26, 2022 as National Awareness Campaign for Economic Abuse Awareness Day.
May I make a friendly amendment to your
Of course.
motion?
Yep.
And perhaps at the end and continue to support whatever you had said before, because I thought it was really well said.
Yes, I would definitely like to add that to it. And I can, again, I'll just go to it and read that in as well to the amendment. So we would be supporting in November, we will continue to support the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and the National Financial Literacy Month.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And it's never easy to say no to proclamations that are so important to a segment of our population. And but I agree with Councillor Smith that there is some overlap with some of the other work that we're doing. So thank you for putting that clarification on, Councillor Smith. So the motion is to accept for information and acknowledge that we are looking at National Domestic Violence Month and Financial Literacy Month. Any further comments or questions? I am seeing none. All in favor? That is unanimous. On to new business 6B, which is Division 3 Councillor vacancy. Mr. Coleman and Ms. Gavin, this one is yours.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. So as required by legislation, it's my duty and obligation to advise council of the vacancy, the resignation of Councillor Vandenberg on August 26th of 2022. His resignation was immediate as per the legislation. So we have a requirement for a by-election, and we are recommending December 12th to conduct a by-election for Division 3 with the voting hours of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and that Leduc County set an advance vote date of Saturday, December 3rd, 2022 to conduct the by-election for the Division 3 councillor with the voting hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and that Leduc County appoint the following returning officer, substitute returning officer, being Joyce Gavin as the returning officer and Rick Thomas as the substitute returning officer. And then the final piece of the recommendation is that Leduc County review the vacancy on the boards and committees and determine appointments. Councillor Vandenberg sat on several external committees. There are backups or alternates to those positions. So council may wish to use the alternates until after the election, or council may reappoint new current members to those positions. It's for your consideration this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. I noticed in the report that nomination day would start on September 14th. Is that correct?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In accordance with the new advertising and nomination process under the Local Authorities Election Act, yes, that's true.
And my only comment is that seems so close to like tomorrow. And so it's an amazing, at first when I saw the 120 days, I thought that was quite a bit of time, but when you start backing it up for an election cycle, it really isn't. So tomorrow would start nomination day. Should we pass this? Are we able to accept nominations as early as tomorrow? Should this be?
Yes, we would. I have some forms. I've had one inquiry already, and we have to get the communication plan up on the website ASAP. That's being worked on. So that would be maybe a day delay, maybe not.
Thank you. Okay, so the recommendations, one is to receive the information of the resignation. The second would be to set the election day of December 12th, voting hours. Third would be advance poll, and then returning officers, and last would be how we want to deal with vacancies. So the floor is open. Councillor Smith.
I want to thank administration for taking this on in admin and taking it out of the political sphere for us to set dates. We approve them on your recommendations. So thank you for having the transparency that you've come forward. You've set the terms, you're following the law of doing it, and the council basically will follow through on your recommendations if they're approved today. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? I see none. I'm just going to talk about number 5. We are 6 weeks away from our organizational meeting, 7 weeks. I'm wondering, when we look at the appointments, if we can use our alternates until that time. There might not even be a meeting for some of those, which means that we're not having to open up all of our groups. I'm seeing just some nods around the table unless somebody's not in agreement with that. Okay. So, Councillor Lewis?
My only question would be on the 2 that he was the only representative on. If there's no meeting, can we hold off on that appointment?
And so, and I'm looking at Edmonton Regional Waste Advisory Commission, I believe they met maybe twice a year. But again, if something comes up, Mr. Coleman, I will certainly sit on it. I can take that. And the other one was, the Intermunicipal Planning Framework Oversight Committee, which is that committee with the city of Beaumont and the city of
Yeah,
Edmonton.
so that one meets ad hoc at best.
Ad hoc.
We haven't had a meeting in 2 years.
So if it's okay with council, if there is a one for the Edmonton Regional Waste Advisory Committee, I will do that on behalf of council. Otherwise, we have alternates for all our other ones. Thank you for that, Councillor Lewis. Okay, so with that, we would take the recommendations as a suite, would we, Mr. Coleman?
Individually would be appropriate in
Individually.
this case, Madam Chair.
Okay, Councillor Smith, first recommendation.
I'll move recommendation number 1, that Leduc County Council receive as information the August 26, 2022 notice of resignation from Kelly Vandenberg as Division 3 Councillor.
Comments, questions, debate? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Just a comment. For the past 5 years, have enjoyed working with Kelly. I've learned a lot. He's had some incredible questions that made me think twice about any information I thought of. So I would just like to wish him well wishes.
Thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous. Looking for someone to move number 2, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. That Leduc County set the election date of December 12th, 2022 to conduct the by-election for Division 3 Councillor. Voting hours are from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you. And again, this is an MGA set deadline. No comments or questions. All in favor? Unanimous. Looking for number 3. Councillor Scobie.
Leduc County set the vote date for Saturday, December 3rd, 2022.
Oh, your microphone, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Okay. The Leduc County set the advance vote date for Saturday, December 3rd, 2022 to conduct the by-election for Division 3 Councillor. Voting hours are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you. All in favor? Number 4, that I will take that. The Leduc County appoints the following returning officer / substitute returning officer for the 2022 by-election. Joyce Gavin, returning officer. Rick Thomas, substitute returning officer. Comments, questions, debate? All in favor? And number 5. Number 5, Councillor Lewis.
That Leduc County Council review the vacancies on boards and committees and determine appointments.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
Did we not decide not to do that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, no motion is required there.
No, we're done?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. And again, to echo, thank you for being able to step up a day after we make this motion to be ready and move forward with it. So we do appreciate it. And I think we are moving into our in-camera session. Oh, one more?
One more item, Madam Chair. That's the by-election voting stations
Okay,
bylaw.
sorry. 6C.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We wanted to bring this because of the short timeline and get our facilities booked if we need it for the upcoming election. So we need a bylaw passed to give first, second, and third readings to establish voting stations for the by-election for Division 3 councillors, subject to availability of facilities and require. So we're asking for Clover Lawn Community Hall, Roley View Community Hall, First Baptist Church, Nisku Inn and Conference Center for the election date. And then the second one would be establish the Nisku Inn and Conference Center as voting station for advance vote to be held on Saturday, December 3rd from 10 to 6. The only difference with the election day is we're recommending to remove excluding the Beaumont Community Center and Leduc Fellowship Church because those were low votes and we feel they'd be equal representation with the 4 that we're recommending.
Okay, so this is a bylaw, so we need 3 readings. Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Just a question on the bylaw. Does this have to be circulated or given notice to the public prior to this being here today?
No requirement.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would move first reading.
Okay, first reading of the bylaw that the following voting stations for the 2022 election for Division 3 Council be established subject to the availability of the facilities and requirements of the voting station. Number 1, Clover Lawn Community Hall, 48203 Range Road 233. Number 2, Roley View Community Hall, 49402 Range Road 234. Number 3, First Baptist Church, Glen Park Road and Range Road 243. This is hard for a dyslexic person. Number 4, Nisku Inn and Conference Center, 1101 4th Street, Nisku. Those are the ones. Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Yep, we haven't voted on the first reading.
Just clarification, what happens if those locations are not available?
I have talked to Nisku Inn and tentatively secured that. If not, we will look at other ones, but we're hoping Nisku Inn and Conference Center was the biggest concern because of the Christmas season. And if not, we'll have to come back or relook at it.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of first reading? Unanimous. Second reading, Councillor Wanchuk. Comments, questions? All in favor? Third reading on the same day, Councillor Smith. Thank you very much. All in favor? Unanimous. Third reading, Councillor Scobie. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. With that, I need one more motion to go in camera.
We need, a motion for the advanced voting station to establish the Nisku Inn and Conference Center.
Okay, advanced voting station. And is this a bylaw as well?
No, just a separate motion. That's all the legislation requires.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
That Leduc County established the Nisku Inn and Conference Center as the voting station for the advanced vote to be held on Saturday, December 3, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
All in favor? Unanimous. Can I go in camera now, Ms. Gavin? I need someone to move us in camera. Councillor Scobie?
Sure.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. We will be going in camera for those that are watching. Don't know how long that will be. We will come out with a motion after our in-camera meeting. Thank you. And Rick, how long does it take to get to Sarepta from here? Not when you drive, like regular.
35 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Those back rows.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for those rejoining us after our in-camera. Councillor Scobie, do you have a recommendation you'd like to make?
Yes, I would. I would make the recommendation that Leduc County enter into an agreement to purchase the remnants of Northwest Quarter 3353 west of the 5th for $2.35 million with a 2022 deposit of $350,000 due at signing of the agreement to be provided from internal savings or the asset life cycle land management reserve.
Thank you. Any comment on your motion before I open the floor?
Yes, I think this is a great opportunity for the county to secure some gravel that's getting very, very expensive to bring into the county. Trucking has been turned out last year was a huge cost for us just to get the gravel back to the county. So this gives us probably 10 to 15 years of gravel back in our within our borders, and will save us probably this much or more just on the extra trucking alone. So great deal for the county.
Thank you. I support that. And again, thank you to our administration. This has been many meetings with council, in camera, not in camera, lots of questions, lots of options. questions asked and answered by administration, options put on the table. And like Councillor Scobie, I believe that this is a good deal for the county. I think it will help us out. We know the price of everything continues to increase. We also know that aggregate is getting less and less easy to find. And this will serve our residents well for the near and distant future. Councillor Smith?
I will be supporting the recommendation today. And again, I just want to in public thank administration. I said no in the beginning. I had a lot of reserves and risk to the county, but every question I had was answered either through debate with the council, which thank you for your patience with that, or administration bringing back facts. So today I will be in support, and that's based on the hard work of admin to answer some very tough questions and for council to have a great debate over a long period of time. So again, I will support this today.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we will adjourn at 3:16 p.m. Thank you for joining us virtually for all of those who did.
Get out your shovel.
Yeah.